You guys, Tony Jaa is back out of nowhere with a new movie called Striking Rescue. I think it was around a couple months ago when at the most random time we just got news that a new Tony Jaa movie was coming out like a week later on a Chinese streaming app called Youku. For those who don't know, Youku and Ichi are Chinese streaming services that are, in my opinion, leading the action movie scene in Asia currently. No one is putting out the same output as these guys. So many good movies, but also stinkers. If you haven't seen any, I'll probably recommend the Eye for an Eye movies as a good introduction. After Tony, it does seem like more and more action stars are moving towards this Chinese streaming scene, with Iko Uwais also having an upcoming film for Ichi, which I think comes out in like 2025. Okay, back to Tony Jaa. From Thailand, Tony Jaa is probably the greatest Southeast Asian action star of all time. His impact on action cinema is very large, especially in the early 2000s, with his movies Ong Bak and The Protector, aka Tom Yum-goong. If you want to see vids about these movies, please let me know. But since then, his career never really reached the same heights as it once was. He released sequels to Ong Bak and The Protector, which are widely panned and filled with drama. I actually really like Ong Bak 2 though. Then he'd make his way to Hollywood, where he would have supporting roles in things like Fast and Furious, XXX, Jiu-Jitsu, and most recently Expendables 4 from last year, which we all agree not to talk about. And his latest starring movie would probably be Triple Threat from 2019, where he starred alongside Iko Uwais, Scott Adkins, Michael J. White, and Tiger Chen, the true Expendables. Striking Rescue isn't his first time in the Chinese movie industry though, as in 2015 he starred in SPL2, directed by Soi Chiang, which is genuinely such a good movie. I would highly recommend this to anybody. He also apparently had a few little cameos and appearances in other Chinese movies here and there. So, Striking Rescue is directed by Cheng Si, who also directed last year's Desperado, starring Danny Chan, for Ichi, which I actually thought was quite good. Tony Jaa plays Bayan, who just lost his family due to a drug cartel. In order to seek revenge, he kidnaps the gang leader's daughter, intending to use her for revenge. Where in the background, there's a plot about rival gangs and stuff. The story is nothing to write home about. I wish it was a little more simple than complex, as so many of these types of movies try to have complex stories, as sometimes it's better just to have the characters have a straightforward goal, just so we can sit back and enjoy the butt-kicking action. The stuff in between the action is just boring and stale. Another thing that holds us back is Jaa is speaking English, while everyone else in the movie speaks Chinese, which does not really work, as Jaa's acting isn't the best, and it just really makes him feel separate from everything else.
I'm just a glass-lost family.
SPL2 did something similar, if I remember correctly, but with none of the same issues. As for the action, it's really solid. Tony Jaa is doing what Tony Jaa does best, his Muay Thai knees and kicks. You won't have to wait long for the action either, as a quick fight happens in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Also, every single set piece is pretty long and plentiful, filled with some surprisingly brutal moments for a Chinese movie, because they have stricter censorship. We also get this pretty cool motorcycle set piece where Tony Jaa is driving through like hundreds of goons who are all wearing Hawaiian shirts for some reason. We then get this hallway fight, feeling like something straight out of the raid. The final set piece takes place in this jungle and has a couple cool stunts that stick out to me. For some reason though, in this scene, we get this awful looking CGI rocket launcher which took me out so much. Like, what the hell is this? A few of the side characters also get a little time to shine in the action. We get this axe lady who gets a few good fight scenes. Eason Hung also gets a couple good fights here and there. Xing Yu plays one of the villains, who most people probably know from Kung Fu Hustle, where he plays one of the Kung Fu masters and gets his head chopped off. But more recently, he has been appearing in many of these DTV movies, often as the villain. He's really solid in this, with a decent 1v1 fight against Tony Jaa at the end. I would also like to mention this line I found pretty funny coming from the daughter character, when she has to do a stunt or something, and she says, "I'm not Tony Jaa," which is kind of funny, I admit. So, I'd give Striking Rescue a 6 out of 10. Nothing fantastic, but an overall easy watch, and hopefully this means for a brighter future for Tony Jaa. You can watch this on Youku or on digital in a month from Well Go USA, who also released this in theaters recently.